Okay, welcome to the weekly JWS Learning Podcast. With you today, Jonathan Huddleston, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by our special guest, Lisa Wood, our head of art in the school. And today's topic is encouraging creativity. The main focus we've come to this is that if you think about Bloom's taxonomy and put it down to very simple words, we sort of start when learners are learning at the base level in terms of remembering information. They then start to understand, they then apply that knowledge, they can be analytical. The next stage up is they evaluate, and then finally the holy grail, so to speak, is that we get our learners to be creative. But we all know from our own practice that is incredibly difficult. So fortunately we have our expert. Good morning, Lisa.
Morning.
So where do we start? Starting from an art context, perhaps, how can we encourage creativity in our learners?
Well, what we find, on the most part, we have people for about 50 minutes. That's how long our lessons are, and we have that quite difficult task of getting them to think creatively within that sort of time frame, and then they go off onto another lesson where they're using different parts of their brain. So we're mostly interested in the right side of the brain, which is the creative side of the brain. A lot of other subjects generally kind of work with the left side of the brain. In loose terms, they're often known as academic subjects. We're often known as creative subjects, but I like to call them left brain or right brain subjects.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I'm thinking about my subject being modern languages, and again, we really want our kids to take risks and be creative, but sometimes they're so convinced they've got to get the grammar absolutely spot on that they're so limited by perhaps what you're saying, the left side of their brain.
Absolutely, and we all know, even us as individuals, we all know that we always want to get the right answer, and that is your left brain always kind of working that for you. But within art, there isn't always a right answer. There's certain skills and techniques that there's right and wrong ways to do it, but it doesn't mean to say the wrong way, as people perceive it, is wrong, because if it works for you, then it's great. That's something we're always struggling with in our subject. We're always struggling with pupils, literally they do a couple of lines and expect to see a masterpiece, and straight away they're like, yeah, that's wrong, and they just want to screw it up and throw it in the bin. And we want to encourage them to kind of continue with it, and it's a difficult thing because their left brain all the time is saying to them, no, it's wrong, no, it's wrong, no, it's not, what am I doing, I don't like this, all that sort of thing. And it's kind of almost like the little devil on the shoulder sometimes kind of saying, no, you can't be doing this, you can't do this, it's wrong, there's no right or wrong here,
Well, I think you're speaking probably to a lot of people there in all their subjects who are feeling the same thing. So, in art, for example, give me an example of something you could do to just get that right side of the brain thinking.
Okay, well, I mean, we've been working on trying to make it a bit more obvious that we do have two sides of our brain within our subject area, particularly in lower school quite recently. So we've been doing things like where we've been allowing people to listen to their music, just to get them into the idea that their right side of their brain is important. So they kind of listen to their music, they want to zone out. So we get them into doing that for a while. And then what we do is we say, you're not listening to your music this time, we're going to start putting some more instrumental music, that kind of thing, on for them to listen to, so that it engages their right brain even more.
Yeah, because that would always worry me, and particularly in my subject, if I let kids start listening to music, I just think they'd be listening to the words all the time.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And there's also always that kind of distraction there as well, because they're too busy fussing around what music they want to listen to. So, I mean, if you listen to music with words, that's going to use your left side of your brain, because it's reasoning, it's logical,
remembering.
Yes,
again, low taxonomy.
Yes, definitely. So we want instrumental music because it allows the right side of the brain to come into play, and it does get that kind of zone happening. So we often play that kind of music, and you do notice the difference. The pupils are calmer, they're more focused on what they're doing. You can kind of bargain with them a little bit more. So when you say, well, that's looking good, you've done a few lines there, and where would you go now? And they start thinking, oh yeah, where would I go now? Rather than say, well, I don't know, I don't want to do it, there we go, I'm not doing this anymore, and getting frustrated. It brings their levels of their right brain up. So it taps into their creativity, and that's the main sort of area that kind of would work initially.
Okay, well, I've just got visions of some kids saying, classical music, not my thing.
Go with like instrumental chill out music is what we tend to go for. So with a decent beat, I'll be to chill out. He's quite
really?
chill. Yeah, those kind of things.
I was hoping movie theme tunes, but maybe not.
Yeah, all that. Well, you could actually approach it and say, think about a movie that you're watching. To get your imagination working for you to really engage with the storyline, there's music playing, and you don't even realise music playing. But it does actually kind of, it's that subliminal message really that kind of gets their imagination going.
Okay, well, okay, that's music.
Yeah.
Give me another suggestion.
Well, the other thing is as well, particularly with our creative subjects, people automatically think that art is something you can do or you can't do, and that's wrong. If you think about signing your name, that's the first kind of creative kind of mark you generally associate with yourself.
Okay.
It's always this big thing about, I've got to design a signature kind of thing, and everybody manages it, even if it's just a couple of lines. It's a creative mark that suggests you. So we often get them to sign their name or write their name. Handwriting is another thing, that is obviously very personal and stylised. And so we then get them to mirror image it.
Okay.
We get them to turn the paper around and do it back to front.
Right.
We get them to do it with their left hand or their opposite hand. Okay. So if you're right-handed, left-handed, and vice versa. And by doing that, it's taking them out of their comfort zone. The automated signature that everybody does, that the left brain kind of governs, if you like, is it's turned on its head. Okay. They have to think differently, and that is their right brain then coming into play with the creativity.
So it's almost like a starter motor in a way, that you're basically you're switching it on, so that once you've got it thinking that way, there is a sort of a knock-on effect when you start your work that you can then actually engage creativity. So
absolutely, and you're always going to have the left side of the brain kind of butting in, if you like. You can't always just have the right side of the brain flowing, because you do need logical ways of working, even with creative subjects. So it is getting the balance right. It's kind of pulling that left side, right side up of the brain up to the left side of the brain, so they're working in conjunction with one another. And quite a good thing to get to see visually, and to see whether your class is actually doing that kind of technique, is to if you Google left right brain dancing girl, it's a visual thing you can project up onto the wall, onto the projector screen, and literally, if it goes anti-clockwise, that is your left side of your brain working.
Okay.
If it goes clockwise, that is the right side of your brain working. So automatically you can see where their natural stance is. And you do tend to find, lower ability bands tend to use their right side of their brain a lot more actually than the left, than the upper bands, because they're sort of quite logical thinkers and so on.
Right.
So it's kind of getting the balance, and then if you want to make sure that they're kind of using both sides of their brain, then you can get them to train themselves to move it round. And I tried it with quite a few of my classes, and after a while, when you sort of say to them, well, can you move it? Can you change the direction it's going? And they stay there for hours. They could actually stay there for hours and look at it. And I know some of them have gone off and got it on their phones and looked at it afterwards. And then they come back and say, I can do that now. I can train it. Brilliant. And then you can say, brilliant, start using that within your lessons.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking, I mean, I guess being a linguist, we're quite analytical in terms of getting the grammar right. I say with this creativity side as well, I've got visions now of looking at this, but I can look at this picture and I can almost get my mind to look at it and think and see it move and change direction.
Absolutely.
And that should, in theory, get me.
Yeah. Your thoughts start changing. I know, for example, Ellen McHugh, when she attended the inset on this, she then tried it out with some of her classes, and she got them to do visual representations after they'd listened to some music and so on. She said, and the creative kind of thinking was so much more abundant than it was before.
And is there a danger that you then lose the analytical side as well, or?
Well, the left brain's usually more dominant anyway, so you kind of default back. So no, you don't ever really lose your analytical side, the reasoning side, the logics at all. But it's just kind of knowing when to tap into it and when not to tap into it. And even things like reading, if you're sitting reading, some people find it difficult to focus if you have instrumental music playing and things like that. You do immerse yourself in it more, and your imagination works alongside your logic brain.
Okay, I mean, you've mentioned obviously that other teachers have used this in other subjects. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of maybe like an essay writing subject in English, history, maybe even modern languages. How would that equate to maybe a text?
Well, I would say, get them to read the text, and then get them to read it again with instrumental music playing, and then get them to kind of see if they can visualise what they've just read. So get them to actually illustrate the text that they've just read. Even if it's kind of quite diagrammatical or representational, it doesn't matter, as long as they're kind of pulling out what they've read and actually putting it into some sort of visual language. Because obviously art is a language that it started back in the cavemen. It is a language. So if they aside from this, does it look good? Does it not look good? It is a way of communication. So it is a way of pulling out different things. I used to revise by drawing around my my facts and stuff when I was younger. But the other little thing you could do is get them to just do things with their opposite hands, things like even everyday people, everyday things people can do, is like brush their teeth with their different hand and stuff like that. Just gets the other side of the brain kicking in.
Fantastic. So, yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Liz. That was absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much.
No problem.
And we'll finish there.